Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Far be it from us to try and spoil your holiday season, but senior career managers in government might want to consider preparing for the worst. Suppose the coming Trump administration does get Schedule F in place. Are you ready for a forced retirement or a change in career? We get some advice now from retirement expert Tammy Flanagan. And Tammy, people are asking you about this.
Thanks for having me again today. And I have been getting calls, and it's almost like trying to talk someone off the ledge of some drastic decision because nothing has happened yet. I tell people don't panic. I hate to see panic set in ahead of time because when that happens, you do things that you probably will regret later. So I think it's a time for cautious pessimism or maybe cautious optimism, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right, and certainly not panicking over something you can't control. And by all accounts, because of just the way the government works, and there's a lot of, won't get into rulemaking and all of that, but Schedule F can't happen on day one, and the firings on day two in reality.
That's right. It's absolutely right. And I think some people think otherwise. So I feel like part of the job we have is to try to calm things down a little bit on the side of, making sure you protect your job for what it is today.
All right. So what's your best advice with respect to, say, you want to retire or you think you might be retired anyway, and maybe now's a good time to think about that?
Exactly. And I think it's always time to prepare. I mean, even on day one of your career, you should start understanding your basic benefits, start to set goals for the future. Because, just like when our children are born, we set goals for their college, we set goals for what we expect their life to look like. Your career is the same way. You probably have a goal. I remember the old civil service countdown clocks where people would say, I only have 28 years, 9 months, and 15 days to go. And I think it's, kind of the same way under FERS. But I think with the federal employees retirement system, it's a little harder to pinpoint a date because we have 3 different benefits that are working together. But I think the one that's most unique to your federal career is that FERS basic retirement benefit. And you got to really know, when are you eligible for it? How much is it worth? How much would it take to replace that benefit if you were to move into a job that didn't have a retirement benefit? So there is a lot to think about in preparation for retirement, no matter how and when it happens.
And that FERS benefit, that's a fraction of what the old civil service pension system was, correct?
It is, because the old civil service pension was considered a single benefit plan, meaning that you come into federal service right out of high school or college, you stay until you're 55 or older, and you're going to retire with that one check that comes in the mail every month, or what now is a direct deposit in the bank every month. And that's what you live on. I mean, that benefit could replace 80% of your income if you worked long enough. FERS can do the same thing, but it's not going to be all in that one single benefit. So that retirement benefit, as you said, Tom, is much less generous. It's about half of the value of the civil service benefit, but you're also picking up full Social Security coverage. And you have that wonderful thrift savings plan with some tax advantages and 100% return on your investment for the first 5% as your agency kicks in, both matching and that automatic 1% contribution.
Right. So if you have a TSP and you've saved well for it and you have full Social Security, you could do better in retirement, income-wise.
Absolutely. I've seen clients that I've worked with that would not want to switch back to civil service no matter how much money you gave them. So yeah, we have seen some folks who've done really well with the new retirement system that's been around for over 30 years.
And there's almost nobody left. Once in a while you hear of a CSRS type of retiree, but they're getting, their ranks are thinning out as the years go by.
And they are.
It's possible to get an estimate for FERS. I mean, you don't have to wait till 3 days before you retire to open the envelope to see what you're worth.
That's right. And you shouldn't wait till 3 days before, although I think some people do. I think it's important to understand the calculation of that benefit and what influences its value. So just getting the estimate is not enough. I mean, a lot of agencies now have do-it-yourself software called GRB Platform, where an employee can just go on their computer, put in their date of retirement that they're thinking about, and it will give them a nice computer printout. But how do you know if it's accurate? So you really need to know how your length of service plays into that, how your salary rates play into that as well. and what are the possible reductions and withholdings to that. So it's more than just getting an estimate. It's really understanding to make sure you are ready in terms of all your personnel records being up to date and understanding that calculation.
Right. And in different career situations, your eligibility date is not necessarily a given either. It used to be, whatever it was, 30 years plus.
And 55.
And 55, no longer the case. And most people do have mixed careers.
That's right. Yeah, we have people who come into federal service much later in life than typically was the case with the civil service system. So we have people who can retire with as little as 10 years of service at age 56 or 57. And we still have the 30-year full career available at what's called your minimum retirement age, which for most current employees is around 57 years old as well. But if you are forced out in a way where your agency is offering you an early retirement, maybe through some type of reorganization or downsizing that might go on, those retirement requirements go down to age 50 with 20 years and any age with 25 years, which throws a whole lot of federal employees into the eligibility now situation rather than having retirement still be 7 to 10 years in the future.
We're speaking with Tammy Flanagan. She's a principal at Retire Federal, but it's more than just a simple calculation of income. I mean, there's a psychic component to retirement, and sometimes even if you're eligible, you just don't feel like you're ready. And
That's right.
maybe you have to wait till that psychic clock says, well, maybe now's the time.
Right. When someone says to me, what's the best date to retire? And there is such a thing as, having a great date to retire. But I always tell them, I say, make sure before you even consider setting a date that number one, you're financially ready to retire or move into something else. And number two, just like you said, Tom, you're mentally prepared for this transition. Because just like any other of life's transitions, this is a big one. Going from full-time work of at least 40 hours a week. Many federal employees are away from home 50, 60 hours a week if they're still coming into the office. From that to waking up every day, having it be the weekend, Monday through Friday, just as it is on Saturday and Sunday. So it's a big, big move for many people.
Right, because, boredom can set in, and we all know stories of people that retired and were dead 6 months later just because they, Lord knows why, but fulfillment wasn't there, perhaps. They got...
Well, that's part of the preparation, exactly. So, have some realistic expectations of retirement, knowing that you'll get those closets cleaned out, within the first 6 months of retirement. You'll take that big trip around the world, and then, you've seen it all, so what's left? So you have to have something to wake up for every day. Make yourself a list of what you need to do or what activities you want to learn or participate in. There's so much to do in retirement that you'll find many employees who retire will say, I don't know how I had time to work. But then you do find employees who just can't get the hang of, having that much free time without a schedule, without a title. So there is some preparation, more so for some than for others. So it's something to be realistic about.
Yeah, and you mentioned title. I think that's a key fear factor for people, is simply that their identity is so closely tied with their career that they feel like they're disappearing from the face of the earth when they disappear from the workplace. And in some sense, you do. I mean, you're gone. And when you think of the people that you've known in your career that have retired, and maybe you're the only one that remembers them, but there's more to identity than your work if you create it.
That's right. That's right. There is something to be said for that. I mean, all of us have a certain identity at work, and for some, it's that title that gives us some stature at our workplace and some respect from others. And maybe we don't feel that we're getting that at home. So we got to find a way to cultivate that in other ways, whether it be a volunteer activity or pitching in to help with some things where you do get those same accolades, but for a different reason.